Hello. So today I'm going to tell my story because God is insisting that I do it and really wants me to do it. So I got to do it to hopefully help other people. So start off uh, my birth. My real mother is Princess Diana. I was born a bastard child, and they covered it up so they don't want anybody. Nobody knew Diana was pregnant, I guess, or anything, I guess. And when I was born, they tried to get me out of the country and right away. And something about a boat fire, I was rescued, and then I was brought over here and illegally adopted by my mom in Ferndale, Joselle Cullop, and my dad, David Cullop. And then I don't really remember too much about my childhood till like kindergarten. Uh, During kindergarten, I was flunked in kindergarten, picked on. I was felt different than other people. They said I had ADD and ADHD, and thought I wasn't smart, or I thought I wasn't smart because of how everyone around me made me feel. Started making me feel like I was dumb or something, but I don't know. I just didn't feel right. And then so I started watching sports at a young age, probably 5 years old. Loved sports, also loved to play sports, but coaches wouldn't play me very often and overlooked me. If coaches would have spent more time with me, they would have seen that I had talent, but instead they kept me out of games, and I never got my chance to show them I was really good at sports. The other kids would always pick on me, in school and in sports and just all over. I'd always get picked on and make me think I sucked when I was actually pretty good at sports, I thought, but I don't know. But I'd play pickup games, basketball, from a young age. Probably started that about 10 years old or something at the YMCA, and went all over the parks in Bellingham and Ferndale and schools and stuff, and would play pickup games and did pretty well. And sometimes I'd outshine, everyone on the court. I'd do pretty well, and I held my own, And when I was on the basketball team for the Boys and Girls Club, they just kept me on the bench all the time, and I never even got to play. So I don't know what was up with that. I never knew, why they did that. And maybe someone else knows. I don't know, because I guess I've been studied my whole life and I never knew it. So I don't know who's studying me or anything. I guess the feds or something. I don't know. But I practice baseball, basketball, and football every day alone. Sometimes I have friends come over. We play catch or whatever. I played wiffle ball on the streets all the time when I was a kid growing up too, with the neighborhood kids. That was fun. And I practiced a sport every day, whatever season it was, for 5 or 6 hours a day. Sometimes I would practice till 3 a.m., rain or shine. I was really good pitcher and would throw the ball against a concrete wall we had in the front of our house. It was it was like a baseball, but it was the same weight and everything. It would bounce off the wall and just come back, and I'd glove it and I'd throw it back. And I learned how to throw curveball, fastball, changeup, and then I even tried throwing the knuckleball, and I started to throw knuckleball a little bit from time to time. It wasn't the best knuckleball, but it was starting to look good. But I don't know what. As I got older, I played Pee Wee baseball, but like I said, I really didn't get a chance until maybe 12 when my dad was the coach. My dad was the coach for the first time, and he actually gave me a shot and put me in the rotation to pitch. And he put me in as a pitcher. I was wild at first, but as the season went along, I got better and struck out around 15 batters in one game and got one our few victories. And then we were in the playoffs. We were the last seed versus the first seed, and I pitched the entire game and only gave up one run and maybe 3 or 4 hits, and we upset the number one seed, which was really cool because they always rubbed it in when they beat us. And then was one of the best memories growing up because the whole team dogpiled on the pitcher's mound, and for the first time in my life I had a very special moment and felt like I never felt before. We lost the next game, got 10 runs and shut out, but I'll never forget that one game, because it was so special to have all the kids around me and celebrating. So that was a very good moment for me. Um, so I never got enrolled back into sports after that again because my mom was a abusive, crazy alcoholic, and after that, and was at home, didn't putting any effort into me. I practiced baseball after that till 15, then just played basketball after that and just pick up games around the county still. And I played basketball till I was like 18 all around the county in various parks. Like Alabama Street had a basketball court somewhere, I remember, and I played at the YMCA a lot. And then on Maplewood Avenue they had a basketball court. At Shuckson Middle School I played at a lot, and all over the place. I liked basketball a lot. I was pretty good at basketball. I had a sister growing up. She had highs and lows. When some days she was, happy, and some days very angry and out of control. She would be my best friend on good days and my worst enemy on her bad days. She would hit me, trying to get me to hit her back, and when I finally did hit her back out of anger, I would get yelled at and punished, spanked, while she would laugh at me and while I was getting this punishment and make it even worse for me. She would take scissors and cut up my clothes and my hats for no reason at all. When I was 15, I went into the bathroom and noticed the bottle of NyQuil was empty, and somehow it came to me that she had drank the whole thing. So I ran into her room and she was passed out on her bed. So I then tried waking her up, but she wouldn't move. So I ran in, woke up my mom and stepdad, and they ran into the room and then called 911. They came and rushed her to the hospital and pumped her stomach on the way to the hospital and saved her life. No one ever said anything about that night again. I did not get one thank you from anyone for what I did. I did love my sister growing up, but as I got older, she got worse, and I had to distance myself from her and didn't talk very much. And she was always out drinking, using drugs. My sister was always favored by my mom and dad growing up. I always got the shit end of the stick. My mom would always help my sister out, and then when I needed help, would get yelled at and refused help. My stepdad came at the age of 13 or 14. My mom brought him home from the bar one night, and they seemed to hit it off right away, and he moved in right away. He always treated me bad and enjoyed getting drunk every single night of the week, and would call me names and try to fight me every night. And when he was drunk, I was 16, he pushed me to the ground, and I was basically tired of it. He wanted to fight me. I had enough, so I grabbed, there happened to be a crescent wrench on my bed. I grabbed it and I hit him over the head with it, and he fell down, and he was bleeding. He went downstairs to my mom and told her, your son hit me over the head with the wrench. So she called 911, and the cops showed up, and it was like sheriffs and Bellingham cops. It was like 20 cops that showed up, and an ambulance, fire trucks, and I got the blame for the whole thing, and they never asked me my side of the story. And I went to juvenile detention a long time, locked up in a cell for 23 hours a day, a long time, until a public defender finally came in and saw me. And this was like months later. This public defender shows up, and he basically made me plead a third-degree assault with a deadly weapon, and he told me that was the only way I was going to be able to get out, or they're going to send me away. So that's what I did. I pleaded the third-degree assault, when it was self-defense, because my stepdad was pushing me to the ground and trying to fight me, and I was only a skinny little kid. I wasn't going to fight a man, so that was kind of weak of him, but that's just stuff that happened in my life, back then. So after I got out of juvie, I lived on the streets with friends, and I slept wherever I could, sometimes in alleys, or even in the bushes, or wherever I could. I worked every day of the week pretty much at a McDonald's, and I worked at a couple restaurants too, washing dishes part-time, just 1 or 2 days a week when I wasn't working at McDonald's. And I was actually a prep cook too at a restaurant downtown Bellingham, and I was learning how to cook, and they were teaching me all kinds of cool things at that restaurant, and it was a pretty good deal. And I was going to school, almost every day. Sometimes I would skip school because I was too tired to go or whatever, or I'd get stoned and just not show up, because I had a rough life, and I just didn't show up because I was having a tough time. So then I started using drugs at 16, or like meth, and I used meth for 28 years, and then I quit like 150 days ago, almost, or maybe more days. I don't remember right now, but I was hooked on meth for a long time. I kept trying to get off of it. People didn't know I was on meth. I wouldn't tell anybody. I would do, secretly in the bathroom or whatever, and some people knew, but they didn't say anything. And when I had a drug test, I would have fake pee, so I just used the fake pee to pass the test. The fake pee you'd buy at the smoke shops, and I'd get away with it by doing that. And but then, when I got tired of it, I just prayed to God, to help me, and then He helped me. I think he got rid of. I know He helped me. He got rid of the urges, and that's what the main thing was. Is every time I tried to quit, I'd get these urges, and I couldn't control the urges. They would drive me like crazy. So I'd go back to meth again, and meth was just ruining my life over and over again, and I just couldn't get off of it. And then when I finally did, my life just got a lot better. So God helped me with that. He helped get rid of the urge. So So this is about my father and fishing. At a young age, like 4 or 5, it could have been sooner, my father took me fishing to Lake Padden in Bellingham opening day for trout. It was really fun. I really enjoyed fishing with my dad. I always looked up to my dad. He was like a Superman to me. He was always my superhero. Despite his drinking problem, I loved him so much. This is going to be hard. He was the best fisherman. He opened my eyes, heart, soul to fishing. He taught me how to fish, and he always gave me the best advice when it came to fishing in life. My father was a really amazing person, and an amazing person despite, his drinking problem. I just wish he could have spent more time with me and would have taken me fishing more instead of leaving me home while he and his friends went out, fishing all the time and on the weekends. And he would leave for long periods of time and disappear and never come, back home and spend time with me. So that was really hard too. Every time me and my dad went fishing to the lake, we would always have fun and catch fish. I don't remember us fishing the rivers too often, but when we did, it was always an exciting adventure. I remember one time we went to the river, and he wasn't paying attention. I think he was tying a setup or something, and I was watching his pole because I was all excited for him to catch a fish. I wanted to see him catch a fish, and I was watching his rod, and this was early in the morning, fishing the Nooksack in Ferndale for steelhead. Back then it was open, I'm pretty sure, or I think it was open for steelhead, but he was fishing for steelhead that day. I don't know if he followed the rules or not, because I didn't know the rules back then, but the sun was just coming up. It was a beautiful morning, and suddenly his fishing pole bent over and was going crazy, and I yelled with excitement, "Dad, Dad, Dad, your pole!" And he looked at it and grabbed it with a smile on his face and look in his eye that I will never forget. He fought that thing for a long time, but he ended up losing it. He was upset, but happy at the same time. I knew at that moment that I love fishing and was forever hooked on fishing. So after 8 or 10 years old, uh, my dad didn't spend much more time together. Uh, after 8 or 10 years old, we didn't spend much time together. He was never around. He spent a lot of time at the bars and worked out at Intalco for years and recomped the dumping out of towards Lummi. He then left when I was 12. He packed his stuff while my mom was at work or out or whatever, and he didn't say much and seemed to just disappear for a couple years. And when I was 14, my mom kicked me out, so I went and stayed with my dad. And for 6 months, he was never home and was left me with no food, with his girlfriend, kids that picked on me, and they were very weird. I didn't like hanging out with them, though. I had my first girlfriend his with his girlfriend's daughter's friend, and she was really pretty and older. She was 17, I was 14. We would hold hands and kiss a lot. And then after a couple weeks, I found out she was seeing an older boy or man. Broke my heart. Broke up with her and then stopped talking. I ended up going back to live with my mom after that because my dad just disappeared one day, and I didn't see him until I was 16 when he showed up when I was in juvie and visited me. I just remember him apologizing for everything, and then I didn't see him till I was 30 again. He was in the hospital. He had rare lung cancer when I was 30. We spent time together, when he had cancer. He'd come over for dinner and would always tell me how proud he was and always loved spending some time with my kids. And he died of cancer. He passed away in the hospice center in Bellingham. I think it was a hospice center in Bellingham. I spent 3 or 4 hours crying by his bed as he slept. Every time he woke up, he would look at me and tell me how sorry he was for everything and that he loved me and wished things would have been different. I forgave him and told him I forgave him because I did forgive him and that I loved him and not to worry about it, because I didn't want him to worry about it, because I just wanted him to rest in peace. After he passed, left all his shares to my sister and nothing to me. I thought that was strange because he was always 50-50 no matter what. So someone should look into that, if someone altered any, papers. I don't know. I wasn't mad, but thought it was odd. The funeral was sad. A lot of people and military people were there. He was Navy. He was in the Navy when he was younger. He spent some time in the Navy, and I loved my dad very much. I will never forget him, of course. And then my mother has been sort of like my sister. She's had a loving side to her towards me growing up. She also had an angry psycho side to her too. When she is happy, was always very nice and loving towards me, but if she was in a mood, she would scream and yell at me and my sister and herself. I don't remember what I put there, but I always had to be careful around her because if you said the wrong thing, she would just instantly snap and just yell at you all crazy and throw things around and just all kinds of crazy stuff. That's my childhood every day, So she did try to be a good mother, but She has a lot of mental problems that plagued her whole life. Her mother is very good, and taught me a lot about cooking, baking. I also like to add that my stepdad is very good at barbecuing and taught me a lot about barbecuing. I am a very good cook, and I can barbecue very well from learning from my mother, stepdad, and grandma. The grandma on my dad's side, every time I struggled with my life and would try to talk to my mom about it, would turn it into a argument. She wouldn't want to talk to me, she'd just want to argue, and if I asked her for help, financial help, she would sometimes help me, but would chew me out for make me feel guilty and just chew me out for asking her for help. Sometimes I would ask her for financial help and she would say she couldn't and chew me out, and then I'd find out, the next day or even late, a couple days later, she was helping my sister out. She'd been flying her from Hawaii over to here, and her daughter and all kinds of stuff, and then she'd turn around and tell me she had no money for me, when I was homeless and wouldn't help me at all. And that's how my whole life was. She would help my sister out with plenty of money, and then I would end up with nothing, and it was like that with school clothes and school shit too. She'd buy my sister top of the line stuff, and I'd just get barely the necessities or anything at all. I never understood why the whole, when I was a kid, I just tried to ignore it, and tried to bottle all this stuff up and just deal with it in my own ways, so that I wouldn't be depressed all the time. I went to stay with my mother, and she let me stay there. This was like I was homeless after I lost my house, so I went and stayed with my mom for a little while, and it was only lasted like a week, and my stepdad would make comments towards me that were insensitive and heartless, and he'd just tell me to go find a job, and I was a bum. My mother told me, make a cardboard sign and go hold it up at the corner and beg for money. I then packed up my stuff and left, and I lived in my truck in a pop-up tent camper for months. I haven't talked to my mom since then for a couple years. My grandma and step grandpa on my dad's side were very my favorite family in my whole life. I loved them so much, and they did so much for me. They taught me a lot about life. They had great stories about their life that they would tell me all the time, and I loved hearing their stories. My grandmother was a cook in a restaurant in her younger days. She was very good at cooking and baking. I loved her a lot. My grandmother was very good to me. I love her so much. She was Native American, Aleut. She was from Unga, Alaska. That's where she was born. She had a very hard life. She never showed her side, her bad side. She always kept it cool with a straight face, but I always knew she had a lot of bad memories that haven't haunted her her whole life. She was very strong and prideful woman, and she always meant business, and I always tried to never cross her, because I knew if I did, she would tear me up. I always looked up to her, and I was always proud that she was my grandma. She made me feel really good about myself when I was around her. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today. My grandfather was a logging. He was my step-grandma, but he was a logger. He drove logging trucks for Pettit Logging in Idaho. He worked for his family business, which is Pettit Logging. I think it was called that. I'm pretty sure it was Pettit Logging. He was always so happy. He liked to tell stories a lot. Amazing stories. His advice was always amazing too. He always knew what to say and when to say it. He helped me and as much as possible, and would have given the shirt off his back or anything for me. There were many, many days that me and my sister didn't have anything to eat, and my mom or when when I lived with my mom or my dad, I lived with when I lived with my mom or dad, we didn't have any food, so I'd go up to my grandmother's house because she lived like a mile from us, and we'd walk up there, and my grandmother would always have food or always cook for us when we went over there, and always kept us fed. You know, if we had nothing to eat, we just went over there and ate. My grandmother took good care of us when we went over there. Um, we'd go over to my grandmother's. My grandmother like knew somehow that we were coming over before we even came over. She'd have dinner already on the table for us sometimes. My grandmother would always, oh yeah, she'd head right for the kitchen. We'd go over there and start cooking. They didn't have very much money that I knew about, or I don't know if they ever had any much money, but it seemed like they didn't have any money, or they budgeted well. I don't know. Some older people don't like to show off their money. They like to, you know, they don't like to spend it. They like to just save it, which is a good thing. And they just, I don't know. So my grandparents seemed like they didn't have very much money, so they would had help us, but only as much as they could. It seemed like, which was fine with me because they did what they could all the time for us, and I was very grateful. So. My grandfather, he'd go down every morning to Cedars Tavern in Ferndale. He'd have coffee with his friends, and you know, I think he worked for Cedars also as like a maintenance guy, and did maintenance work for him. I love my grandfather very much. I'll never forget him. I also had my Aunt Florence, my great aunt. She was my great aunt, my grandmother's sister on my dad's side. My aunt always had good stories and good advice, and always helped me, and you know, fed me. And I worked on her property for her and mowed the lawn and trimmed bushes or whatever, you know, growing up, and she'd pay me for it, which was good. Or I'd go down to the burger joint in Fairhaven, and she'd buy me burgers, you know, for helping her out. So she lived in Bellingham and Fairhaven. She was married to Chick for many years, and he passed away in the 90s. I wasn't close to him and didn't talk to him much. He didn't like me, so I was very close to my aunt, though, my Aunt Florence. I moved her to Alaska. I drove a U-Haul up there, and I got her in a house, and you know, and then I flew back down here. She was in her 80s, maybe in her 70s or 80s, maybe old. I don't know how old she was because she wouldn't tell me how old she was a lot. So I think she was in her 70s or 80s at that time, maybe upper 60s, but I think she was in her 70s. So yeah,